The restaurant fell silent the moment his voice broke through the whispers. "She's with me." His tone wasn't loud, but it carried weight. Calm, steady, protective. Every eye turned toward the man standing by the table, his hand resting gently on the shoulder of a little girl clutching a worn-out teddy bear. Across from them, the billionaire heiress Evelyn Cross froze mid-breath, her glass of wine trembling in her hand. The expression on her face was unreadable, caught somewhere between disbelief and something far more fragile. Before we dive deeper into this story of courage, love, and second chances, if you believe in kindness, redemption, and the quiet strength of people who refuse to give up, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your support helps us spread stories that touch hearts and remind us all that compassion still matters. It all began on a bright afternoon in the heart of New York City, where dreams moved faster than people, and people often forgot how to feel. Nathan Cole wasn't one of those people. He had no wealth, no fame, no reason for anyone to look twice at him, but he carried something the city had nearly forgotten: decency. He was a single father raising his 7-year-old daughter, Harper, after losing his wife 3 years ago. The two of them lived in a small rented apartment above a bakery where the smell of fresh bread filled their mornings, and the hum of city traffic became their lullaby at night. Nathan worked as a part-time waiter in an upscale restaurant called Maison Delacroix, a place he could never afford to dine in. Every morning, he'd drop Harper off at school before pulling double shifts just to keep the lights on. Harper was his entire world. Bright, curious, and so much like a mother that sometimes it hurt just to look at her. She had her mother's laugh, her way of talking to strangers as if they were old friends, and her gift of finding joy in the smallest things. Life wasn't easy, but it was honest. Nathan wasn't the kind of man who complained. He carried his grief quietly, wore his love for Harper openly, and tried to teach her that no matter how hard life got, they could always choose kindness. But the world had a way of testing even the kindest hearts. That test came in the form of Evelyn Cross, daughter of hotel magnate Richard Cross, heiress to a fortune most people couldn't imagine, and known across the city for her sharp business mind and sharper tongue. She was elegance and authority in human form. But beneath her perfect smile and diamond earrings was a woman who had been raised to believe that money was everything and that love was a weakness. Evelyn came to Maison Delacroix one afternoon for a business lunch. Nathan didn't recognize her at first. To him, she was just another guest with cold eyes and a warm credit card. He served her table with quiet efficiency, never expecting their paths to cross again. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. A week later, Harper's school announced a charity event to raise funds for children who had lost parents to illness or accidents. Nathan couldn't afford to donate much, but Harper insisted they attend. She had drawn a painting, a colorful picture of a house surrounded by hearts, and she wanted to auction it to help other kids. Nathan smiled and let her. He knew her heart was far bigger than her age. The charity event was held at the Cross Foundation Hall, Evelyn's family estate. The ballroom sparkled under chandeliers, filled with people who wore their wealth like armor. Nathan felt out of place from the moment he stepped in. He wore his best, a simple white shirt and black tie, while Harper clung to his hand, her eyes wide in awe at the glittering room. He was about to take her to the children's section when a staff member stopped him. "Sir, this section is for donors only," the man said politely, glancing at Nathan's modest clothes. Before Nathan could respond, Harper stepped forward and said brightly, "I made this painting to help the other kids." She held up her little canvas proudly. The staff member's smile faltered. "That's sweet, miss. But this event is for contributors who've made registered donations." Nathan's face flushed. He gently pulled Harper close and murmured, "It's okay, sweetheart. We'll go sit over there." He didn't want to make a scene. But before they could leave, a familiar voice cut through the murmurs. Wait, it was Evelyn Cross. She was standing just a few feet away, holding a champagne glass, her eyes fixed on Nathan. "You work at Delacroix, don't you?" she asked, her tone curious but laced with the quiet authority of someone used to being obeyed. "Yes, ma'am," Nathan replied, keeping his voice calm. "Just here for the auction. My daughter wanted to contribute." Evelyn looked down at Harper's painting. A bright, innocent picture that seemed so out of place among the marble floors and designer gowns. Something in it made her pause. The colors, the hearts, the small words scribbled at the bottom. Love never leaves. She didn't know why, but those words hit her harder than she expected. For a moment, she saw herself as a little girl before money, before image, before her mother walked out on her father's empire and left her behind. Still, old habits die hard. That's admirable, Evelyn said, her tone softening just slightly. But this event has certain standards. Perhaps next time. That's when Nathan spoke. Not harshly, not angrily, but with quiet conviction. She's with me. The words weren't defiant. They were protective, proud, full of love that no fortune could buy. He didn't care who Evelyn Cross was or what rules she followed. He cared only that his daughter's kindness was seen, and not dismissed because she didn't fit someone's definition of enough. The room fell silent. Evelyn froze, her gaze locked on Nathan. In that stillness, something inside her cracked. For the first time in years, she felt small, not because someone challenged her, but because she saw something real. A father standing up for his little girl with nothing but love as his armor. The rest of the event passed in a blur. Evelyn quietly asked the organizers to include Harper's painting in the auction. To everyone's surprise, it sold for $20,000. Evelyn was the anonymous bidder. Nathan found out only later that night. He didn't know what to say. Harper was overjoyed, jumping around the apartment, believing her art had changed lives. Nathan smiled, but deep down he wondered why someone like Evelyn Cross would do that day's turn. In 2 weeks, Evelyn visited Maison Delacroix more often, always requesting Nathan's section. She'd sit at her table, pretending to read business reports while watching him from afar, the way he treated every customer with respect, the way he smiled at his co-workers, the way he always rushed home at exactly 5:30 to pick up his daughter. One afternoon, she saw Harper run to him outside the restaurant, arms wide open, shouting "Daddy," and Nathan lifted her high, laughing with the kind of joy Evelyn had never seen in her world of calculated smiles. Something stirred in her chest. A longing she couldn't name. When she finally gathered the courage to speak to him properly, she invited him for coffee. Nathan hesitated but agreed. Their conversation started formal, small talk, politeness, but slowly grew deeper. She learned about his late wife, about how he promised her he'd raise Harper to see goodness, even when the world didn't. And he learned about Evelyn's loneliness, how her success had built walls around her that money couldn't tear down. They were from different worlds, but somehow their broken pieces fit together. Evelyn began sponsoring the school's art program anonymously. She attended Harper's little art show at the community center, standing quietly in the back. Nathan noticed her there, and for the first time there, eyes met not as a server and customer, but as two people who had begun to see each other's hearts. Months later, the same restaurant that had once been their wall became their bridge. Evelyn walked in one sunny afternoon for lunch, and there was Nathan again, serving table 6. Harper was with him, sitting quietly, drawing in her notebook while waiting for her dad to finish his shift. Evelyn approached their table, nervous but smiling. "May I sit?" she asked softly. Nathan nodded. Harper looked up, curious. They talked about simple things, laughter, childhood memories. The sunlight through the window caught Evelyn's hair, and for a moment Nathan saw her not as a billionaire heiress, but as a woman finally free of her armor. Then, a group of businessmen entered. Recognizing Evelyn, one of them looked at Harper, then at Nathan, and said in a mocking tone, "Didn't realize you'd found a new project, Miss Cross." The insult hung in the air. Evelyn's face went pale. Before she could respond, Nathan stood and placed his hand gently on Harper's shoulder. His voice was calm, steady. "She's with me." This time, the words carried more than protection, they carried truth. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears she didn't try to hide. The men quickly looked away, embarrassed. Evelyn reached across the table, her hand trembling as she touched Nathan's. In that crowded restaurant, two worlds collided, not in scandal or spectacle, but in something far more powerful, understanding. Evelyn realized that love wasn't weakness, it was strength. The kind that doesn't need wealth to exist, only heart. From that day, Evelyn began spending time not in boardrooms, but in classrooms, helping fund Harper's art dreams, learning to live not above people, but among them. And Nathan, once a man struggling to keep the light alive in his small home, found that sometimes the universe returns the kindness you give, just in unexpected forms. If this story touched your heart, if you believe that love, courage, and kindness can cross even the widest divide, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Every click helps us bring more real, emotional stories to life. And before you go, comment below. What does "she's with me" mean to you? Because sometimes those 3 words aren't just protection, they're a promise that love always finds its way home.